Jay Leno choked up the other night as he bid farewell after 22 years as the king of late-night TV.
First year of this show, I lost my mom. Second year, I lost my dad. Then my brother died. And after that, I was pretty much out of family. And the folks here became my family.
So why is NBC dropping Jay in favor of Jimmy Fallon? Joining us now from New York is Adam Buckman, columnist for the website TV How, and author of Jerk, How I Wasted My Life Watching Television. And Joe Concha, a columnist for Mediaite. Adam, so tell me again why NBC is getting rid of the guy who's still number one?
Well, first of all, your question, I believe, is based on the sort of illogical notion that you would basically cancel your top show. So that's something that's difficult to explain. The explanations really lie in number one, industry issues. Jimmy Fallon gets a very high rating for his time period at 12:35 in the younger demographics, the younger viewers the network craves, and they hope that he can come in and, in fact, even boost the number of younger viewers they were getting under Leno, who, in fact, was the top show for attracting younger viewers anyway at 11:35.
And on that point, Joe Concha, Jay is winning the demo, and it seems to me that I know a lot of elite critics kind of look down on Leno, but it's still hard to understand why he's being shoved off the stage.
That's the thing. The demo is 18 to 49-year-olds that advertisers care about most, and that's the whole argument for Fallon, that, well, maybe you could bring in more younger folks, but Jay is winning the time slot. He is beating Letterman quite easily, who is older than him, 65, Leno 63. He's beating Kimmel, who is much younger, also in that demo as well. I think, you know, Howie, honestly, I've gone back and forth on this, on whether this is the right decision or not. And my conclusion comes in math and logic. And the bottom line is there's only one other show you could look at on television that wins its time slot on a weekly basis, and that is 60 Minutes. So to get rid of Leno now, the only conclusion I can come to as to why they're doing it is because they feared losing Fallon, who is an enormous talent. He could do the interviews, he could do the monologue, but his ability to do songs and parodies and imitations is something that Letterman and Kimmel can't do. I think the reason why they're going with Fallon now is they're afraid that when Letterman's contract ends in 2015, that Fallon could jump to CBS, and then they're left with who? Seth Meyers. Okay. So that maybe that's the reason why there's a sense of urgency.
But this is very reminiscent, Adam, because we went through this before when everybody said, well, Conan was the hip young comic, and we don't want to lose him, and how did that work out? And, you know, Fallon is also seen as a hip young comic, not taking anything away from him, but there was the Conan debacle before this.
That's right, and in a way, the Fallon situation could play out at least in the early going, in the same way as the Conan situation, in the sense that I doubt very much that the Tonight Show will instantly maintain its #1 ranking as soon as Fallon takes over. I have a feeling that in total viewers, 4 million on average every night for Leno will decrease when Fallon comes on. And so for the first time in, well, many, many years, you know, NBC will be lagging in late night behind perhaps Letterman or Kimmel. So it's not a sure thing. There's a big gamble on whether the 4 million, what will happen with the 4 million people who watch Leno? Will some of them stick around for Fallon? Will the older ones go to Letterman and the younger ones go to Kimmel? Or will they just give up on late night altogether?
Howie, I think it's a mistake we commonly see network executives make, which is let's hire somebody younger, and if we do that, young audiences will follow. Let me give you 3 examples of why this may not be true. The most watched show.
2? We're short on time.
Okay, 2. NCIS is the most watched show on television right now on CBS. Its main actor is Mark Harmon. He's 62 years old. The most watched cable news show is The O'Reilly Factor. That host is 64. One more point. The Daily Show, a fake news broadcast, that's a very popular show. Jon Stewart is now in his 50s. All of these rate really well, despite the fact not having a younger guy involved. So I don't think age necessarily brings you a younger audience. Proven commodities, in the case of Jay Leno, is much more guaranteed.
You snuck in your 3. Adam, let me play for you Leno on the Today Show, and tell me what you think about it, how he really feels about being eased off for the final curtain.
Well, I mean, this time I was asked. The last time I was sort of told this is what's happening. If he wasn't here, would I still be here? Probably another year or so.
Well, he's really ticked off, isn't he?
I think he is, and You know, it's hard to read him. You know, he goes on 60 Minutes and acts, you know, his usual blasé self about these kinds of things and says, you know, that's showbiz, that's why they pay you the big money, because eventually they're going to just disappoint you, and so you have a stack of money available for when that happens. But I think the emotional farewell he made at the end of his final episode of The Tonight Show was a very telling moment, and probably the most revealing moment publicly I've ever seen Jay Leno in. Really crying and really saying, you know, this is not only about being famous and being the host of The Tonight Show every night, but this is about going to a workplace for 22 years. And anyone who has been forced out of a workplace in that way kind of understands that you know, the people you work with every day, if you're lucky, are really like family. And I think I think he was. That was not an act. He's not an actor, and I don't think the emotion was an act on his part.
No, for a guy who tells jokes for a living, it was really a moving moment. And just before we go, Joe Concha, somebody did a study. More Leno jokes over the years about Democrats. The top target for Leno was Bill Clinton with 4,607 jokes.
I have a feeling that if Barack Obama was able to finish out his term, he may have caught Mr. Clinton in that regard. But just if I could add,
George W. Bush was second, by the way.
Okay, well there you go. But Howie, I don't think this is his swan song, Jay Leno's. I know he has some comedy shows to do, but I think ultimately Fox TV is very interested here because they've always wanted to get into that late night war if the right guy came along. 14.6 million people watched that finale. That's 4 million more than Breaking Bad. It's 10 million more than 30 Rock. This is a guaranteed audience. I think Fox jumps in here.
Well, it'll be a good story for us to cover. Joe Concha, Adam Buckman, thanks very much.
Thank you, Howie.